Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Macola 10, a single solution to automate, manage, and grow your business. My name is Julie Blankenship, and I am the Senior Marketing Manager here at Macola, a division of Exact. We know your time is valuable, so we appreciate you sharing some of it with us today. Now, with that said, I'd like to introduce our panelists for today's webinar. Our first presenter is Nick Mears, Senior Product Marketing Manager who has 10 plus years experience in technology, B2B, B2C, and private and public sector marketing. Nick's background also includes a tenure with both marketing and PR firms serving clients in technology and software, healthcare, financial, and manufacturing, including companies such as Abbott Laboratories, Eli Lilly, Nationwide, and Ashland Chemicals. Next, I'd like to introduce our other presenter for today's webinar, Steve Featherston, Senior Business Consultant, Pre-Sales. He has been with Exact for 4 years. Prior to that, he managed the implementation of Macola for many Exact customers. Prior to Exact, for 16 years, he worked in 3 different companies, all using Macola. Before this, Steve owned his own business for 22 years in the consumer electronics industry. Now, with that said, I'd like to pass this over to Nick.
Well, thank you, Julie. Appreciate that intro there, and thank you everyone for joining us today. We appreciate you taking some time from your busy day. So what we're looking at today is 3 quick questions we want to cover. Who uses Macola? How can Macola help you? Why is Macola different? So first off, who uses Macola? Well, the companies that use Macola are primarily in either manufacturing or distribution. So these companies could be just about anything, especially those that are in what we think of as discrete or process manufacturing. They can be metals, household goods, they could be food and beverage, injection molding, industrial machinery. You get the idea here, but basically if you're in that space creating something in a manufacturing environment, then you're probably a good candidate for us. And we have thousands of customers who have used Macola just to solve their needs. Now size, from a size perspective, we typically get what we think of as the small and medium-sized businesses. So for us that means anywhere from 20, which would be a really small company, all the way up to 10,000 employees. Geographically speaking, it's safe to say that Macola has a global footprint. From the US to Canada and Latin America to Europe and Asia, Africa, Macola is growing quickly. So Macola's been around for a while, in fact over 40 years, with over 8,000 customers having relied on Macola to run their businesses. Also, Macola 10 is what we like to call inclusive and scalable, meaning that you get more functionality for a better ROI, and because it's scalable, something you can grow into. We'll talk more about that, the scalability of Macola 10 later on. So who uses Macola? Well, all kinds of companies. We have a few here that you might recognize. At the same time, these customers are not necessarily representative of all of our customers because a lot of our customers are the ones that you wouldn't recognize. They're companies that are behind the scene or companies that feed into the supply chain. So maybe you've heard of a Simple Green or White Castle, but you probably haven't heard of the other 99% of our customers who make something for the supply chain. Now, who could benefit from Macola 10? Well, first of all, any organization that has siloed information. That's information that's inaccessible, data that lives solely in a single department. Second is a business that has information everywhere. Who knows where you'd find the answers to your questions? Third, maybe you're seeing lost tasks. Tasks that are slipping between the cracks because at first they seem insignificant. But it's amazing the amount of chaos one missed task, even seemingly small, can have on an entire process. The fourth is an area what we like to call unknown responsibilities, where no one seems to know who's responsible for what. So if you're experiencing any of these challenges, then you could benefit from Macola 10. And speaking of challenges here, let's conduct a quick poll. And here's the question. What do you see as the greatest challenge facing your business? And Julie, if you could go ahead and kick this off. Okay, so it looks like we have 52% making processes more efficient. And then the rest are relatively close. That's interesting, Steve. What do you think about this?
Well, I was taking the poll myself, and making processes more efficient was my leader, although right behind it was collaborating across functions. So I'm kind of surprised that didn't come up a little bit higher.
That's true, and these actually do possibly could be different based off of who's taking them, based off of the role. So,
absolutely.
But that was interesting. Well, thank you, Julie. If you could go ahead and close that, please. And thank you, everyone, for your vote. We may do another one of these here in a bit, too. So how can Macola help you? So if your company is experiencing any of these issues that we saw in the last slide, then you're going to be really interested in this slide because these are the 6 main benefits that Macola can bring to your organization. So first off, we have improved visibility and control of enterprise processes, reduced costs and increased revenue, reduced errors, and improved accuracy, spotting bottlenecks and redundancies while increasing efficiencies, reduce manual effort and paperwork with increased productivity and increased customer and employee satisfaction. You could actually add a little bit more to this list if you'd like, but this is something that could get us started off here. So let's get a little bit more specific here. In your business, each business function, each role has different responsibilities and with different needs. Macola addresses these different roles and responsibilities. While the director of operations may be looking to optimize the shop floor and spot bottlenecks and redundancies, the president may be looking to increase collaboration across business functions. That's kind of what we were talking about before. So why is Macola different? Well, for starters, let's look at some industry recognition that Macola has recently received. This is from Frost & Sullivan. We recently won an award from them for product leadership in ERP. When describing Macola, Frost & Sullivan mentioned things like complete functionality and highly scalable, personalized workspaces, role-specific views, it's integrated and scalable. We're proud of this recognition from Frost & Sullivan, and we're looking forward to winning more down the road. So what makes Macola different? Specifically, we'd like to talk about these, from all-inclusive value to flexible purchase options. All-inclusive value. Macola offers functional areas such as manufacturing and project management, distribution, quality management, accounting and finance, human resource management, CRM. And here's a great example of a customer who's talking about all-inclusive. They say Macola was an inclusive solution. It just had a lot more functionality, whereas some of the other solutions you could add on to them and get all of the functionality of Macola, but they were more expensive. And this is from Ben Barber, General Manager for Solaire Medical. They're in the healthcare industry. We thought this was a great quote, and it really speaks to the all-inclusive aspect of Macola. So you can mix and match what you want from Macola. You may not want all of them, or you may only need a few. But either way, you can start with the ones you're ready for now and grow into the rest later at no additional cost. Macola 10 is ready to help you grow. And from manufacturing to customer relationship management and everything in between, these are just a few of the features and functionalities that can help you. There's quite a depth and breadth of feature and functionality here, and Steve's going to discuss a few of these in greater detail in a bit. Now, regarding this feature and functionality, I promised a second poll, and here it is. So Julie, if you can, go ahead and kick this off. What core function of ERP does or could benefit your organization the most? So it looks like there is another clear winner here, Steve, 42% manufacturing. That's BOM, shop floor control, quoting. What do you see from this, Steve?
Manufacturing was my second choice. I was actually looking more in the way of customer relationship management, because I'm seeing a lot more of that as a requirement for businesses today, whether it's just on the customer side or it's contact management, where you're kind of managing your suppliers also and the communications with them. But manufacturing is pretty popular for our software, so it's no surprise it's in the lead.
Absolutely. And we're going to see how these are integrated and tied together a bit more also. Thank you. Julie, if you could go ahead and close that for us. Next, for what makes Macola different, integration between business functions, integrating sales, support, purchasing, production, shipping, finance. No more gaps in between. Nothing falls in between the cracks. Next, configuration instead of customization. Automated workflows increase efficiencies, reducing manual effort and paperwork while improving visibility and control of enterprise processes. Here's an example of how automated workflows can increase efficiencies for you. Sometimes companies have individual processes that aren't really processes at all, but are more like a series of disjointed and disparate and disconnected actions. And they certainly cause pain points, such as delays due to late paper filings, a mailbox that isn't being checked, time-consuming manual data entry, siloed data. So what we do first is organize and put these into a process flow. And then next, once you organize these previously disconnected tasks, you can actually, with Macola, start replacing entire tasks. Some of these workflows can even reduce or eliminate multiple manual tasks. And this is just one example, so you can see how this could be extremely powerful. You can configure Macola to meet the needs of your specific workflows and the needs of your organization. This is the strength of Macola's automated workflows. Here's a quote from the Director of IT from GL Mazzetta regarding automated workflows. He says, in one department, we dropped 4 hours every day on one task, and that's really just by using workflows and document management. So what if Macola could help you eliminate 4 hours in every department every single day? That's something to think about. And thanks, GL Mazzetta, for sharing this. So next up, Macola is personalizable, allowing you to create personalized and configurable workspaces. Macola offers 42 out-of-the-box role-based workspaces, providing key metrics, KPIs, and the ability to perform transactions, all on a role-specific individual level. And if any of these 42 workspaces aren't working for you, you can mix and match and configure them so that they do work for you, even without the knowledge of coding. Anytime, any device. We like to think from desktop to laptop to tablets on the shop floor. Increase the speed of doing business with anytime, anywhere access. Take your data where you work. Last of all is flexible purchase options from perpetual to subscription and enterprise license agreements. We want to align with what might work best for you. One last example here. This is another customer who used Macola to eliminate a bottleneck that they were experiencing. This company's in the metal fab industry, and they manufacture conveyor belts. She says that it used to take us between 3 to 5 days to quote one of our larger jobs, and now we're down to half a day. They found the bottleneck, and with Macola, significantly reduced the amount of time it took to quote these orders. So let's get Steve back on the line here.
Okay. Thank you, Nick.
Sure.
Appreciate that. Today what we're going to end up doing is taking a walk through the quote-to-cash process in the latest version of Macola 10. It's going to be 10.5.1. It was released at the end of June. And basically we're going to do a role-based interface, assuming the roles of the individuals of the company that we're processing these orders for. We're going to work with opportunities and quotes and take it all the way to the cash process. And we're going to end up doing that through several different employees in the company. We're going to start out with a sales rep here, Ron Calley, who might enter a sales opportunity. He may process that opportunity, meet with the customer about it, enter a quote for it. He may either convert that quote, review it, or promote that quote in the field, and that in turn will trigger somebody in sales support, Robin here, who will take a look at that quote or the converted quote and review it, in turn print the pick ticket, and get that product out to the purchasing and manufacturing teams. Once she's produced that sales order or that pick ticket, it'll notify everybody in the company that we have maybe a rush order that's coming out, and as our gentleman Jack there in purchasing logs in, he may see that notification and start to review the materials he needs for that order. PO may automatically be created for the materials that he needs. He releases that PO and receives the product. Meanwhile, Bruce in production has gotten a notification also that this order is coming through Rush. So he may go and take a look at the order that was automatically created, confirm the inventory for it, maybe release that order to production, and when it's completed, roll it down to the shipping department where our shipping expert will take over. Now from here, he's going to review his shipping schedule. Notice this has got to go out right away, and he will get that out. As soon as he ships it out, though, it may notify finance that they have invoices to process. And hopefully a few days or weeks later, they receive cash, and our CEO, Jack here, would end up reviewing the results of all of that on his dashboard. That kind of completes the process.
Wow. Well done, Steve. Now, feel free to take a breath after all of that.
Thank you.
So moving on to the next slide here is the sales rep. I'll let you take over again.
Right, and that's about where we're going to go right into the product with this. So we're going to work with Ron Calley, who's going to be mobile on the road. He's going to maybe work with some mobile devices, review some orders, and we'll see how he enters a quote after working with the opportunity, which is the steps that he needed to complete in his tasks. Okay, everybody should be seeing my screen. We're looking at Macola 10 right at the moment. This is Cambridge Compressor Company, and the gentleman up in the top is Ron Calley, and he's the person who is going to be our remote rep for today. Now, he can do things in his hotel room, on his laptop, or down at the hotel's business center by logging into his environment for Macola 10, or he may end up, taking his iPad down and get some coffee and be able to access the system from there. So we're going to see if we can see what it looks like for him to be on his iPad with this type of an interface. So as Ron Calley, he can do all of the functions that he could do from his laptop. This is basically using the native browser, so he can get to all of the tasks about him and get to all the major modules inside of the system. If he goes to his human resource card, he ought to be able to bring up his planning calendar and see what his events are for the day. So as we take a look at the planning calendar for today, being the 14th, he's got an appointment, on the 13th, and if we drill into that particular appointment, we'll see he's got a sales call that he has to do, and the company he's going to see is Dove Equipment. And this is related to a compressor opportunity that he has. They're going to be selling 30 horsepower scroll compressors to them. You can see here we have an opportunity listed. Finance has asked us to tie every sale of these compressors to a project, so we've tied the compressor sales project to it so finance can track the numbers on that. But if I'm Ron and looking at this, maybe I want to go and take a look at that opportunity and see that it's a $30,000 opportunity with 90% chance of closure. So, we're looking at $27,000 is what we might receive from this. Now, my notes for today on the remarks on the right here is I need to discuss this with Javier on site. Now, I could see that we have some competition that's involved here. I can also see we've got a partner involved in the product that we're dealing with. And I might drill into the workflows that are related to this particular opportunity. I think with this one, we're using a 5-stage sales process. So right now, the opportunity or the process that we're in is stage 4 of this process, and I could drill into that particular section and see the details of what's going on. So I need to call them today and close this sale. We spoke to Javier earlier, and we need to send an updated quote to him. So that's kind of what we're going to do right now with this, is we're going to go and create a new quote for this and get it out to Javier so that when I do go over and meet with him, we might be able to process this order through. So in doing this, I'm going to use some of the new screens that are available. Our development teams made great efforts in creating a new user interface. And that user interface is designed to be multi-product capable. So whether you're using an iPad or a tablet, you ought to be able to do a customer inquiry or a quote or an order from this screen. And we'll just go and take a quick look at and see what we might have in stock of a particular item. Now, I know I don't have any of the air compressors in stock, but I also have an interest in a particular bicycle, so we'll go and look up a bicycle so I can see some good data. I've got 1,922 of these bike ASs on hand. can see the detail of this, drop my keyboard down, see maybe some metrics of what's been sold dollar-wise and quantity-wise. I can see where I have them in what warehouses, any open customer orders that I may have for them, any shop floor orders that I've had that have built those, and these work off of an endless scroll capability, so I can kind of scroll through to get what I want on it. You can even go down to the bill of material and be able to blow out the details of the bill of material from this particular screen. Now this has been an effort for the development department where they've taken about 14 screens that were in Macola and condensed them into one vehicle here for me to be able to do an item snapshot, so to speak. So what I'm going to do next is we're going to end up putting an order in for Dove equipment, or a quote, and get that out to Javier. So their account number is 2033. As I start searching for this, it should do some search ahead for me and bring up their account number, so I can just kind of touch it and it'll populate with that. Now I do have a choice between whether I want this to be a sales order or a quote, so we're going to make this a quote. And at this point I can start putting items on the quote. I've got my header information, built to, ship to in place, and I'm looking for maybe an SLE series of air compressors, and ones that I'm looking for is the 30 horsepower version. And as that populates the detail of that, we're going to leave the order date, the build to date, the ship date, promise date, and required ship date all the same. And that may in turn trigger the fact that this order is going to go out today. It's maybe a rush order. We'll add that item to the order, and we get a view of that here. You can expand it and compress the header and the line item information of this. I go up to the top, end up submitting this, and that in turn will send a quote to Javier at the contact that he's got listed on his account card. So we've created quote number 259, and let's say we actually do get over to visit with Javier, and he decides that the quote was fine, he's going to give me a purchase order for it. What I want to do here is take that quote and convert it into a sales order using this same interface. So I'm going to do a quick order inquiry, and we're going to look for quote or order number 259. If I had both by the same number, I'd probably see both. But we're going to take a look, and there's a quote for Dove Equipment Corporation for that scroll compressor, and I've got a button on the upper right to in turn convert that into a new order. So I'm going to do that, say yes, I want to convert this, should come back with the next available order number, which I think is going to be order number 1120, and I've kind of completed the tasks that I needed for Ron Calley. He has been out to see Javier at Dove, and he's gotten his order in place and his order converted. He may actually leave the building and start heading off to one of his other clients. So at this point, I'm going to move over to a different mobile app. This is one you'd end up seeing maybe on your smartphone. And just give me a second to bring that up, and we'll see what he can do while he's actually mobile or while he's parked getting gas or something. With the mobile app for Macola 10, you have some decent functionality here. It's not quite as much real estate as I would have maybe on my, my iPad, but I can go into my workflow here and see incoming tasks. Now, workflow is a lot like Outlook, and the tasks that I'm looking here are a lot like emails. The only difference is these are all visible to other people in the company if they need to be. So you can see on top I have a meeting to discuss compressors with Dove Equipment Corporation. I can drill into that, and I can see the details of it. I could drill into that sales opportunity from here, much like I did with the iPad. I can also see that, I've got some other tasks going on. Maybe I have something that was damaged in shipment. I've got a product that was damaged on its way out to a particular customer, and I can see who's working with that. I can also do item lookups from here. So if I wanted to see, again, with that same bike part that I had dealt with before, if I go and put in bike AS here, see if I can type with my little fingers. There we go. It's going to end up bringing me up the inventory data for bike AS and show me that in the search function above here. And bike AS, I have got it there correctly. There it is. So I've got 953 of them in Massachusetts. I should be in good shape for the orders that I've got going in for those particular items. Now you can review sales orders from here. You can open orders and enter orders from this interface. You'll see a list of open orders that we have here. Here's 1121, which is the order that we just, 1120, which is the order that we just put in for that scroll compressor. And at this point, I'm running a little bit early from my calls with Dove Equipment Corporation, so maybe I'm going to go and check and see if there's any other customers around that are near me, so that maybe I can go see them. So I'll use this proximity function. It identifies where I am in the United States. It's got me pegged for North Jersey, and close by me within a 50-mile range is Marlowe Manufacturing and John's Hot Dog Shop. So if I go to take a look at Marlowe and see maybe if I can go end up meeting with them, it'll give me mapping functions down at the bottom and call contact information. I'm looking specifically for, I think, Paul over at Marlowe, so I can drill into his contact card and be able to get to the details of that and call him directly from this. So you've got some nice functionality for, a quick look up for information that you need while you're on the road and mobile. And you can get into some other details of, let's say, some workspaces that'll give you some reporting functions. Now this I may have to compress a little bit on my phone because the report is much bigger than the real estate that I have. So I can take a look at my sales, last day's sales, quotes that are past due, and then again what customers I'm doing the most business with in. So you can have some of your reporting workspaces available to you on this application also. So at this point I'm going to hop off my mobile devices, and we're actually going to complete our tasks right now as Ron Calley, and we're going to end up logging in as someone from customer service and see what roles and functions that they have to provide in this process flow of quote to cash. So we've completed this function here of opportunities and quotes with Ron, and now we're kind of moving over to what Robin's responsibilities are. And Robin's going to end up reviewing the order that we've got for Dove Equipment Corporation, and in turn printing out maybe any acknowledgments or pick tickets to get the order up and running. She may get a notification that she's got this order, so we're going to now bounce back over to Macola 10 and take a look at what that looks like from her point of view. So when we look at this, I'm going to log in as Robin from sales support, and my desktop may change a little bit. We'll end up moving over to her desktop. Now, she's been instructed to use certain colors for her company. They told her to use the grays, the blues, and the maroons, but she's kind of a rebel, and she likes to have a little color on her page. So she's made that second row or second column there unique to her own. Now, she's got a notification here that there's been a heads up alert, means an order was put in with the same order date and ship date, something you have to get out right away. So in turn, we may drill into that, and I could open that order from here, be able to review the details of that particular order. I can see it's for Dove Equipment. I can see it's Javier as the contact. We have an SLE series of air compressors down at the bottom down here. Looks like it's in pretty good shape. So she could, in turn, print the order acknowledgement from here or print the pick ticket from here, although I'd probably have a lot of this done in an automated fashion. So when the sales order got put in and a notification went to Robin, we'd probably automatically send this order acknowledgement to the customer. She may manually print the pick ticket, as we could do here, but this will end up printing to the warehouse and have inventory pulled for this product, and kind of off you go with that. So Robin's kind of reviewed that, and when she's printed the pick ticket, it may actually trigger, kind of the next step in the process flow. So Robin's done. We're going to end up logging in next as one of our people in purchasing to kind of review their responsibilities. So Jack is our purchasing manager, and he's going to end up coming in the morning and seeing that heads up alert. He'll realize what the order's got on it, and maybe he needs to review what he has to get in place as far as purchase orders to get that product out the door. He may use MRP or some of the other automated functions to do that, and that's kind of where we're going to go right now. We're going to take over the role of Jack in purchasing and assume his responsibilities. So I'm going to log in as Jack. You see Jack's picture in the upper right. His workspace is, unique to him. He certainly can configure it any way he wants, but there is that heads-up alert that he's got in his incoming workflows, and he knows if he drills into it that it's related to, the SLE series of air compressors. So at night when MRP runs behind the scenes, it produces recommendations for him. He's going to go and check to see if there's any recommendations for him to get parts in for that particular order. So that series of air compressors is a TS series of air compressors, and I'm just going to look and see if MRP has told me to go out and get anything for it. And what it says here basically is that I'm going to be short 6 pieces of this SLE motor, another 6 pieces of a mount, and then again an assembly kit. And if I allow it to, I can tell it I'd like it to create a purchase order from this recommendation automatically for me. And that's what it's doing right now, is it's preparing that information to go into a purchase order. When I step out of this, it's going to confirm, you really want this processed into a PO, and absolutely I do. So I'm going to let it do that. It's going to make a record of that. And now we've basically got a PO that's in an unreleased state in place. So Jack can go into his purchase order functionality and be able to bring up what might be an unreleased purchase order, probably the highest number one, so we'll sort this by the highest number. For Shimani Corporation, you notice it's in an unreleased status. So we drill into this, and we go through here and say we want to release this order. You'll see all of the information that was the MRP recommendation is populated on the PO. Save this, and as I kind of step out of it, it's going to force me to print the purchase order, which will kind of commit the purchase order to being able to be received. So I'm going to end up doing that here. We'll see a printout of this purchase order, and then we can go through the receiving process, and Jack will have completed his task. So that PO ends up printing in a format that can be adjusted for your particular business. So any terms and conditions, your logo, all of those types of things you can configure to get on this report. So that is our purchase order, and as I step out of it, it's going to say, did it print correctly? This is kind of confirming that it can be sent automatically to the vendor. We've done that, and what we're going to end up doing here with this is end up receiving that particular PO, so we get all the parts in that we need to manufacture the product. So whether this is done in a purchasing function or it's something in the shipping department, we're going to do the receiving function here for it. That was PO number 577, and I'm capable of counting the 6 pieces in one installation kit, so I'm going to receive all 13 pieces as ordered in one swoop with this date. Of course, we can put in some packing slip, freight bill information, but you'll see it step through the lines of the purchase order, which could be 100 lines long, and it would receive them automatically for me. So now I've got the PO out, I've got the product received, Jack's kind of completed his task here, so I'm going to log off as Jack, and Nick's going to switch us back over so we can see what might be the next role that we're going to assume. And that next role is going to be the production manager. We're going to log in as Bruce, and we're going to see that a production order was automatically created. His responsibilities would be, of course, to make sure you have proper capacity and scheduling through the shop floor or through the production order process of this. And so we'll end up logging in as Bruce and take a look and see, what his responsibilities are as this. So as I open up my screen again, we're going to log in as somebody from production. You'll see his name change in the top right there. We're logging in as Bruce, our production manager. And he's got that same heads up alert that he's got a rush order that's come in, so he's got to build something pretty quick, and he knows by looking at that order, this is an order for an SLE series of air compressors, that once those orders are placed, that the system will automatically create a production order for him, so he doesn't have to do that. All he needs to do is make sure it gets scheduled properly. So we'll go and take a look and see what that production order is. And it should be an unreleased production order, just like the unreleased PO we just experienced. And it's production order number 445. If I go into that, I can in turn release this order and print the materials that are involved in getting the inventory pulled out of stock and brought out to the production floor for the assembly process. So what we're seeing here is it's printing the material pick list and the work order for getting the materials out and in place. Now, that product was put together, and we could end up reporting production on this. So I'm going to go into a module to report that production. We're dealing with production order number 445. And instead of just saying it's complete, I'm going to throw some value-added costs in on here. I could have this built into the bill of material, but it did take me some time to be able to assemble this. So we're going to go and grab some assembly time in here. Let's see if it'll let me do this. So I just sidestepped a button. Try it again. Okay, double click, grab the type of labor we're dealing with, and we're dealing with assembly, labor, and overhead. And we're going to say it took a certain element of time to be able to put that thing together. So we've now recorded labor that was involved in the build of this compressor also. We'll say that this order is complete, and when I hit save here, it's going to put that order, that inventory item into inventory and close the order. Now it's a serialized item, so we're going to end up seeing some kind of a transaction here that's going to bring serial number 238 into it. Now this order is directly tied to the sales order, so it will update the sales order with the quantity to ship when the order has been produced. So as I step back out of that, we should be able to then in turn say that Bruce is probably complete with his production tasks, and he's going to roll that compressor down to the shipping department. And at this point, Nick's going to bring us up our graphics so we can see what the next step is in the process. And the next step is shipping. So we're going to log in as our shipping clerk, and he's going to also see that notification. He's going to look at his shipping lineup report, and hopefully, if everything goes right, this particular order will be in his shipping lineup. He may end up confirming that it's been shipped, attaching any bill of ladings or any other documentation he has to that, and in turn, when he's completed, it would notify finance automatically that that product has been shipped and it's ready to invoice. So if you'd be so kind, we'll pop over to our shipping department. We'll log in as Peter Bailey. And again, he's got that same notification that the rest of the teams in the company got. You can see he's got a rush order in his workflow, and I'm going to go into what we call a shipping lineup report. Now this report may be all that he needs to be able to view what has to go out every day, every week, every month, and plan his shipments. We're looking at a lot of information here, but basically it's sorted by the required ship date. We narrow this down to viewing just what needs to go out this week. We'll kind of grab from Monday to Friday and ask the report to refresh. Now I should see a more refined list. Down at the bottom of this is order number 1121, Dove Equipment Corporation for an SLE series of air compressors. It has one that was ordered, and the quantity to ship was updated by us producing the order through production order number 445. So we see the detail of this, and I could in turn say, well, this is a booked order at this point. I can drill into the order itself and be able to do various functions, whether it's print a bill of lading or print a packing slip for this. In this system, I require that we use confirm ship, which means that the inventory will be relieved out of the system once the product has left the building, but it will be invoiced some other time. So this is an extra step for the setup of Macola that I have. Your company may need this or may not, or may want it or not. But let's just say we're going to confirm ship that order. Brings up order number 1121. So I hit save to this. Wants to know, do I want to ship everything on the order or just pieces? I'm going to ship it all for today's date. And it's brought up that serial number 238, the item that we want to be able to attach to this. So we're going to in turn do that, confirm that that's the one that's going out with it. And as I step out of this, it's going to give me the opportunity to put in freight charges or miscellaneous fees. If you're tied to UPS or FedEx or a carrier, these numbers may fill in for you, but we'll throw in $100 worth of freight and save that. We've now basically completed the ship process, and as we look at his screen again, we've got 4 orders that are booked. If I hit refresh, my 1121 order down at the bottom has changed to confirm ship, so I know I've done my part. And when that status shifts from booked to confirm ship, then the notification will go to the finance department that this has been completed. So Peter's kind of done with his tasks here, and as we step out of this, we'll see what the next step is in our path to getting this product out the door. So we're on shipping, and the next step would be to go to something with our accounting manager. We're going to log in as Joe. He may get an automatic notification of the shipment. He also may get a notification that he's got an order ready to be invoiced. So he's going to do that process. He's going to select it for billing and print the invoice, post the invoice, and then we're going to hopefully receive cash rather quickly on this, because it's all going to happen in one day. So Nick, if you'd bring me back, thank you so much. Okay, so we're going to log in as somebody from finance, and here we're assuming the role of Joe Whitemore, and his workspace may have its own elements to it. He has a couple of widgets that are in place, for instance, an executive scorecard and also a view of his control accounts that are out there. But down in his workflow, you can see he's got not only the heads-up alert, but he's got a notification that this order has just shipped. So he could drill into that and see that order number 1120 has just shipped, and this may work great for a company that does, you know, a small amount of large orders every day. If you're shipping 1,000 orders out a day, you may not want this type of notification. You may want something that lists a group of them all at once so that you're not flooded by tasks. But this is a great form of intercommunication between the departments of the company. So with that said, I'm going to go and select the billing function. We're going to work with 1120 as our order, and that is the order for Dove equipment. So I hit save on that. Do we want to bill everything on that order? I do, for today's date, and it brings in the details of the freight that I've added to it. You can see that there's some tax being added, $1,620, and we're also starting to calculate commission at this point. That wasn't visible to the person in the shipping department. So I step out of this. We've selected the order for billing, and I can go in turn and print invoices for it. So 1120, now I can print a range of invoices, and today's date is actually the 13th, so we'll grab that for today because I did some posting for yesterday earlier. Hit start on that, and it's going to end up printing our invoices. We should see sales order 1120 up here, and it'll assign a new invoice number. Now this is something that, although I'm going through the printing process, you can print these to file and have the system automatically send these out. So here we have invoice number 632. It's going to go out to Dove. This is kind of my last chance to have a look at this and make sure everything's correct on the order, because as I say, it's okay from here. It won't really let me change it very much after it's been posted, which is fairly common to be secure. So as I step out of this, did it print correctly? Yes, it did. And I should be able to, at this point, go and post anything out there in the way of sales invoices for the day. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we confirmed shipped this earlier in the day, and we're posting the invoices today also. The confirmed ship will relieve the inventory out of the system, but not really do the complete financial transactions of invoicing until we've gotten to this step. Those are some choices for setup. So we're going to allow it to post any invoices that are out there for today's date, and we should see order number 1120 pop up in the screen there, along with anything else that might have been needed to post today. We've kind of completed the invoicing portion of it. Now we'll assume some time has gone by and we're going to receive cash against this. And so we're going to open up this receive cash function in the upper right here. And when we do that, it's going to want to ask us what type of receipt we're going to do. So we're going to do a new cash receipt, and this is going to be to one of my bank accounts. I'm going to select it specifically. We could have that default, and we're going to say that this is for $30,000, and we may put some type of a reference to a check number on it. And deposit number, I like to use reference to the date, 9/13/2017, and then Turnit fills in my deposit date, and this is going to be for Dove equipment, which is 2033. So this kind of journalizes that cash receipt entry against AR and against my bank account. And the nice part about this is you can actually go from here and match the invoices. So if we go to this match button up top here, click on it, it'll bring up a matching screen which shows the $30,000 check inbound on the left-hand side and shows us all of our transactions on the right-hand side. And if we grab invoice number 632, which is the one from today, I can highlight and match these two together. Now, I could also in turn apply it to another invoice or several invoices or a couple of them in any kind of order that I want. But this is pretty straightforward, so I'm going to apply this to 632, and it's going to tell me up top that I've got $1,280 overpaid. So maybe I'll grab this invoice also. Now I'm down to $584 that's been overpaid, and I'm going to ask it to match these. This in turn will bring up a screen that says you can match them. What do you want to do with the balance? Do you want to leave it on the account as a balance, as a credit? Do you want to write it off to a difference account, refund it back to the customer? There's choices there. We're just going to leave it on account. So what's happened is my check on the left has disappeared. The two invoices I've matched it to have also disappeared, and it leaves me with the balance that's sitting here as a credit for them. Now, if I've made a mistake on this, I could simply go and find that transaction, click on it, and unmatch it and redo it again. So it's very flexible and forgiving for allowing you to be able to do what you need to do with it. So as I step out of this, we're going to get out of this process, and I'll end up logging off as Joe Whitemore. He's kind of done his tasks here. And Nick will take us back over to the next piece, which is kind of the finality of all of this. The president's going to review, some of his dashboards and numbers for the day and see where we're at. Nick, if you'd be so kind. Thank you, sir. Okay, so I'm logging in as an executive. All of these things are configurable. I'm just giving examples of what they might look like for an individual. We're logging in as Glenn Weissman, and he's got some widgets on his desktop that he considers important to him, one being sales year over year, another being the executive scorecard. You may also get a view of his control accounts, and he's realized that our month-to-date sales has gone up since the last time he's looked, and so we maybe can go and take a look at some of that. Probably more interesting is this $54 million of projected order revenue. Now, anytime I'm on a screen like this, I'm working with a pointer that's kind of a white arrow. When I get to some information that's important or interesting, like this $54 million, it turns into a hand with a finger pointing out. That means I can do something with that. So as I click on it, I should be able to drill deeper into seeing what that $54 million is all about. That's going to bring up a dashboard, kind of giving me my year-over-year sales, also where that $54 million is, and I can drill from there to the detail that makes up all of those orders. But really, I'm kind of focused on my top 10 customers, and Dove Equipment has now hit $1.1 million with that last sale, so I can drill into them. Now, if I didn't know very much about them, I could Google that account and find out about them, but I could also run maybe a customer snapshot and see how they're doing with my business. So as I open up that drill down two layers deeper, I can see that, they've been doing pretty good with us. Their sales for September of 2016 or 2017 are coming along at $33,000. I can see any open orders that they may have in the system on the right. I can see also how much they owe me in the way of AR and what their average days to pay, which I know that they just recently made a lot of payments over the last couple of days, so we're seeing that being a very good customer to have. We're also able to see notes that are attached to orders, like order number 821 here. If I hover over this note, it says, please hold on to this shipment. The customer is sending us an updated ship to address. These notes populate all over the system, so you can end up seeing them in the shipping department in their shipping lineup and have communication back and forth between your teams using some of the internal communications that are here. If I click on it, I can in turn edit and view that note, add to it if I wanted to add to it. But the nice part about it is that all of this is live data straight up in front of us, and we're able to get information as current as the last transaction that entered into the system. So with that said, we've kind of completed the quote to cash process in Macola 10, and I'd like to turn it over to Nick and Julie at this point.
Well, thank you, Steve, and appreciate you walking us through that. And just have a few parting thoughts here for everyone. First off, Macola, how can I help you? It's a single solution with all-inclusive value. Anywhere web and mobile access, configuration is key here. Increased efficiencies using automated workflows, purchase options, we try to align to what you need to work with, then personalizable views into real-time data that matters the most to you. And that's much of what Steve just showed regarding the workspaces, being able to configure those workspaces to show real-time important key data. So additional info. First, you can visit Macola.com for ebooks, other thought leadership. There's additional demos, webinars available on YouTube as well, and product information as well on the Macola site. Tomorrow we should be sending out an email with a follow-up on-demand webinar version of this, and then afterwards there's a post-demo survey, so be glad to get your thoughts on it, how we did today. And now let's get the Q&A. So Julie.
Okay. Yeah, hello. Well, thanks again, Nick and Steve. So let's start by answering the questions submitted during today's presentation. As a reminder, you can still submit questions through the questions pane in your attendee control panel. Looks like our first question is, how is the synchronization handled for customers and vendors for an organization that has multiple sites as legal entities?
Okay. That's a really good question. The way multiple sites with legal entities are handled is that the web interface is a single database with all of your customers and vendors. Your legal entities, let's say you had 4 of them, are separate entire databases that communicate with that web database. So if I go in and do a transaction for one customer, or I change the name or add a new customer to it, I'm telling it what division I want that transaction to take place in. And it in turn will write that data directly to one of the 4 databases that you've specified. This kind of happens behind the scenes. You tell it what division the customer is related to, and it writes the data immediately both to the web database and also to the back office transactional ERP database. So there really isn't a sync as much as an immediate write, so to speak.
Okay, well, our next question is, what tools are available to help me become and maintain ISO certifications?
Okay, another good question. I, in my past, have been an ISO certified auditor. Basically, you need something that you can put your audit results in you can capture the details of this, capture the requirements of your audits, capture the results of your audits, and we've got some great examples of that in Macola 10 where we're using features in the quality functionality of this to be able to track different sections and different requirements in maintaining your ISO status. And then it's kind of nice because when an auditor sits down and wants to look at all of this, everything's all in one place. And you can see production issues or incoming inspection issues. It's all tied to the same business system that you're doing all your transactions in.
Okay, great. Well, we have another question. Does Macola offer service management capabilities for a company that provides service as well as equipment sales?
Okay, I have put together workflow functionality that manages service, and it involves calendaring and scheduling. That covers a lot of people's needs for service in the business. There are sometimes you may have a deeper requirement, like you need to be able to be on site and no internet and update at a later time. And there are some other options that are available out there for integrating with Macola 10 that take care of those types of functions.
Great. Another question. Some elements of the solution are not web-based. Will that change in the future?
Will it change in the future? Yes. If I were to say 4 years ago, did we have as many web-based elements as we do now? It's probably gone up 80% where most of the functions that we were doing from somebody like a road warrior like Ron Cali can work completely in the field without it. Some of the areas where you're reporting production on manufacturing or receiving product in the back door are areas that the development department is putting into web environments. So we've kind of attacked the most important pieces first, and they've got quite a list that they're working on, and it's going with every release.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, but everything that you showed on your screen today was actually based off a server not here, right?
Well, yeah, I'm basing it off of a server that's in Europe at the moment, but with that said, 80% of what I showed today is 100% web-based. 20% of it is still a transaction that requires a client, and that kind of falls into the receiving of purchase orders, reporting of production and manufacturing. But we see that to be something that's accelerating in our product line to get that up and in place and running faster.
Okay. Well, it looks like here we're running out of time, and I want to be conscious of everyone's time this afternoon. So maybe we'll take this out, Julie, if you can.
Okay, we can do that. Well, thanks again to our presenters, and thanks again to everyone for attending today's webinar. If you have any other questions, please contact Nick at nick.mears, M-E-A-R-S, @exact.com. And also, once you leave today's webinar, you will receive a survey on the demo. We'd greatly appreciate it if you could share your feedback with us. As a reminder, we'll be emailing tomorrow out a link to view a recording of today's webinar. Thank you again for joining us, and have a great rest of your day.
Take care, folks.
Thanks, everyone.